Call the commission meeting to order, and the clerk would please call the roll.
Commissioner Lumberman.
Here.
Commissioner Smith.
Here, I'm now in Port Charlotte, Florida, and able to log into my constituents, and they can still contact me here.
And that was Port Charlotte?
Yes.
Commissioner Bailey.
Present, and I'm calling in from Inglewood, Florida, and my constituents can still contact me and I can log into them. So,
Thank you. Commissioner Bunting.
Present.
Commissioner Murphy.
Here. All righty. John, if we could ask you to do the invocation, the prayer.
Heavenly Father, we pray that you would bless our meeting tonight. And Lord, we ask also that you would bless our country and bless our armed services wherever they are. In Christ's name, amen.
Amen. All righty.
Pledge allegiance.
Yep, pledge allegiance. I
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Born and unborn. All righty, any additions or deletions to the agenda?
Can you see?
Entertain a motion to approve the agenda.
so moved. Bailey.
Motion by Commissioner Bailey. Do I have a second?
Or Smith.
A second by Commissioner Smith. Would the clerk please call the roll?
Commissioner Lumberman.
Yes.
Commissioner Smith.
Yes.
Commissioner Bailey.
Yes.
Commissioner Bunting.
Yes.
Commissioner Murphy.
Yes. All righty. Any other public comment, Matt, you see other than Marcus?
Just Marcus today.
Okay, Marcus, you have the floor.
Can't hear you.
Yeah, thank you very much. I'm going to try to share my screen with you guys. Sorry, I'm on public comment. I will, when I need to be on the agenda, I'll try to clear it with Commissioner Murphy and get it in the right place. But this should be easier. I hopefully will finish in less than 3 minutes. I'm just going to show you 2 slides. The one in front of you is really, really busy. I'm going to send this to Angie to put in the minutes, so you'll have it so you can study it. But there's 2 main points here. The first is that the health department has received 6,600 doses of vaccine, and we have put 5,970 of those into people's arms. So that's 90% of our vaccine has been used. And this is the goal that Dr. Caldoun from the state health department set for health departments. So we're reaching our goal. And then the other thing I just want you to remember is, according to the Michigan.gov coronavirus website, 16,824 people in our 3 counties, Clinton, Gratiot, and Montcalm, have been vaccinated. So the rest of this slide, there's a lot of detail there, but it shows, the vaccine that's come into healthcare, 15,550 doses. And then the 6,600 for the health department, which is divided into 4,800 first doses and 1,800 second doses. And what I'm reporting to you is what happened to the health department's doses. Well, of our first doses, 4,800, we only had on Friday, when we closed down at the end of the day, we only had 80 first doses left. So that's really good. Out of these 4,800 doses, we got rid of all but 80. So really proud of my team. Now, of our second doses, why did we have 550 doses left over? These second doses have names attached to them. And someday it'll be you if it hasn't been already. And you'll want to be sure that your second dose is there at the health department when you come for it. So we can't give these. We have to hold on to those until the person associated with them comes to get them. And then down here, we have the shipment that we got for this week. So for this week, we only got 2,800 doses into the district. Only 500 of those came to healthcare. That's terrible. They need a lot more vaccine. The health department got 1,600 first doses. So, tens of thousands of people are clamoring for this vaccine. We only got 1,600 first doses and then 700 more second doses, and then some miscellaneous stuff for long-term care, corrections that came into the jurisdiction, didn't flow through the hospital or the health department. One question that people have is, are we getting our fair share? Is the Mid-Michigan District Health Department, Gratiot County, Clinton County, Montcalm, are we getting our fair share? This is so terrible what we're getting. Yes, we are. We are 1.8% of the population for the 3 counties, 1.8% of the population of Michigan. We have 1.8% of the vaccines. Now, that isn't true everywhere. There are places that are getting more than their share based on their percentage of the population. An obvious example is Washtenaw County, Ann Arbor. And that's because they have so many healthcare workers. This is this 1A group, the people who we vaccinated first. So many of us depend on Ann Arbor for our specialty care, surgery. If we get a really bad case of COVID and need intensive care, we might wind up down there. So they got, more than their share as a percentage of the population. So we're actually lucky that we have 4 little hospitals in our jurisdiction. Mid-Michigan, 2 campuses of Spectrum, actually 5, right? 2 campuses of Sparrow. And for heaven's sakes, let's not leave Sheridan off, 6. So if we didn't have those facilities, we might actually be getting less than our share, but they're here and they're doing what they can to help out. And as a result, we're getting exactly what we should be as our share of the population. The last thing I'll say is, what's going on in our jurisdiction. Actually, I'll stop sharing my screen and I'll just tell you what's going on as far as vaccinations. So the health department is running clinics. We have increased our output per day. We were doing 120 people per day per facility. So 120 in Ithaca, 120 in Stanton, 120 in St. John's. Now we're doing 180 per day. We don't have enough vaccine to do COVID vaccine clinics every day, but almost every day in all 3 locations. So working furiously at that. Pharmacies are vaccinating people. We gave literally hundreds of doses to pharmacies in Greenville, Alma, and St. John's, DeWitt. I'm not naming the pharmacy, even though you can probably guess which one it is. I just don't want thousands of people to bomb these locations. The health department has very little openings. These pharmacies have very little openings. Go to our website, mmdhd.org, and all that information is there. The hospitals, they do have vaccine. They are vaccinating their patients. So we're encouraging people to be in contact with your healthcare provider. As I keep saying, almost everyone has health insurance now. Plus, the health department gave hundreds of doses to 2 hospitals in our area. That is for them to do community clinics. So not just their own patients in-house, they're doing those already, but to do clinics for special populations in the community. So that's happening. And then this week on Thursday, we will be vaccinating all of the employees in our correctional facilities, state correctional facilities in Montcalm County and Gratiot County. That's hundreds of people. They work throughout the jurisdiction, so that's really good news. We'll be doing those folks. The National Guard is helping us with that. So that should go very, very smoothly. So that's what I have to share. I'd be happy to take questions, but I know I'm over my 3 minutes already.
Marcus, I'm curious, is the vaccine all from one company?
We are using strictly Moderna so far. We have asked for Pfizer also, but we have not been allocated Pfizer. You know, in a way, we're kind of glad because Pfizer's harder to handle than Moderna. Both of these vaccines are very sensitive. It's not like it's not like measles, mumps, rubella, or the flu shot. They're very skilled. But so far, we've only gotten the Moderna. I expect once the supply of vaccine really opens up, we will get Pfizer and Johnson & Johnson and AstraZeneca, all four.
Like if it was yourself or your mom, do you have a preference? Is there one that you would like better than the others, just based on what you've seen?
I would say that if you're worried about complete protection, either the Moderna, which we're offering, or Pfizer are the best because they offer 95% protection, but it is a 2-shot series. And there will be people who won't come back for that second shot, and they'll only get like 50% protection. If you get the Johnson & Johnson, that's a 1-shot, but it's 75% guaranteed, and you don't have to go back. So I think depending on who you are and your lifestyle and how good you are about keeping medical appointments, that might be a better bet for some people. 75% is really good for a vaccine. Most of our vaccines are only 75% effective. So, you know, when you compare that to 95, you go like, oh, that's not very good. Actually, it's really good.
Any other questions for Marcus?
Just real quick, Marcus, do you have the capability of handling Pfizer for the temperatures of it?
We do, yes, and we do. We know we do because we actually were offered technical assistance by all of our surrounding sister health departments, Central Michigan, Ionia, Ingham. They have the necessary refrigeration, and they've offered to help our staff if they need it. But last time I talked to them, I said, "How are you guys feeling about the Pfizer?" They're like, "Oh, we figured it out. It's not going to be a problem now. We were scared in the beginning, but not anymore. We can do it." So I'm confident we can handle it.
Marcus, what about the hospitals? Are they giving shots? I thought they were.
Yes, Jen, Commissioner Bunting, they are for their patient populations, and we did give them some extra to do some special populations to finish up teachers in one of our counties and some of the essential workers who are eligible.
You mentioned teachers. I find that a little interesting because I'm listening to the Chicago problems right now that the teachers aren't able to get the shot. They don't want to go back to school until they get it.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
sad.
So the teachers in our jurisdiction have been troopers. They have done all they can to keep the schools open, unlike some other places in Michigan. They've been on the front line since February. So our instructions from the state are really clear: vaccinate them as soon as possible. I think we're very close to finishing all the teachers in Gratiot County, if I'm not mistaken, but we've been talking to them regularly. They should almost all be done at this point in time. So yeah, we're really glad to have been able to help them.
Well, thank you.
This includes, special ed and folks like that who, have contact with high risk kids at very high risk. So very important.
Commissioner Murphy and myself are parapros for the school. I'm sorry, I'm a parapro, but he is full-time. And so I know it's important to the teachers, but I mean, they were there even before they could get shots. They had
That's
concerns. And I do St. Louis and Elma, and St. Louis is open pretty much all the time. And I think Elma is too. It's not,
Yeah.
the littler kids get off an hour early, but otherwise they go full time.
Yep.
And the thing I'd have to tell you is the thing I've noticed this year, and I mentioned it to the teachers, is that we don't have the flu. Usually this time of the year, everybody's got the flu. You got a whole class out, and I have not seen any flu at all.
Commissioner, we might be wearing masks for other reasons in the future.
Yes.
We learned something from this.
Yeah.
I don't like them. I don't like them, but they did something.
Well, I think a big thing on the flu maybe is all the hand washing.
Yep.
So. All righty. Anybody else have anything for Marcus?
Thank you, Marcus.
Thank you, Marcus. And once again, we're so pleased with the great job you and thank your staff. They're doing a great job also.
Well, I would say the same to the county. Thank you very much. And thanks for all the leadership from county government.
All righty. Let's see. We're going to move on to the consent calendar, board minutes, communications, and recommendations from committees. I did notice one thing on the Board of Commissioners meeting. Item C should say invocation by Commissioner Lemmerman. That's the only thing I saw. And anything else from anybody on any of those items? I'd entertain a motion to approve all those.
So moved.
Commissioner Bunting made the motion. Is there a second?
I'll support.
Okay, second by Commissioner Lemmerman. Clerk, please call the roll.
Commissioner Smith,
Yes.
Commissioner Bailey,
Yes.
Commissioner Bunting,
Yes.
Commissioner Lumberman,
Yes.
Commissioner Murphy.
Yes. All righty.
Do you have anybody else that wanted to speak?
I don't think we did. Matt, did we have anybody else? Commissioner Bunting was asking.
I don't see anybody. Nope, I don't see anybody else joined in.
Okay, very good. Then let's move on. Tracy, I believe we're to you.
Yeah, I don't have an administrator's report tonight per se. I'll be going through a number of agenda items with you this evening, and that has pretty well accounted for my time. Chris will have some updates for you at your next meeting. Matt's going to give you his own report, and Tom Clark from the Animal Shelter will be here next time. So I will save my time for the various issues on the agenda tonight. Thank you.
Okay, great. Thank you much. Commissioner committee reports. Commissioner Bunting.
I had a meeting with Michigan Works. I actually have 3 this month, every week, to do the interlocal agreement. I've also had a meeting with, to stop and think. MSU. I had a meeting with them last week. And I had several meetings this last week. I had one in Breckenridge also. On last Monday night, I had a meeting with Breckenridge. They're looking forward to getting the restaurants opened and things starting to move, or, try to see if we can get restaurants back open and the bars and stuff. That's pretty much it.
All righty. Commissioner Smith, you have a report? Oh, we can't hear you.
Can't hear you.
Didn't have any meetings with any of our townships, but spoke to a couple constituents. One gentleman I spoke to last Sunday about an hour and a half about moving to our county, retiring, and it had a good conversation with him about our community.
All righty. Commissioner Bailey, I know we had the health board meeting virtually.
Yeah, we had our health board meeting was updated, a very extensive update by Jennifer Morris, our physician, updated once again on COVID. It can be a very confusing situation depending on what numbers you get. So, all I can say is stay tuned. Marcus is, nobody can blame the health department for not trying and not doing with what they get. Unfortunately, no health department in the state of Michigan and no county in the state of Michigan is getting the number of vaccines that is necessary at this time. So hopefully by the next time we talk, we can see a great uptick in those vaccinations, because that is the key to what's going to help us through the next few months. That's all I had.
All righty, thank you. And the only thing I had, Pine River Township met virtually, just regular business, and they're also putting together the dial-a-ride consortium that was approved by the voters. So, all righty, let's see. Move on to new business. We have the Veteran Services Director up next.
Yes. Sue
Oh, wait a
Edmonds.
minute. Hold on just a second. I forgot John. John, do you have anything to report?
Thank you, Chuck. I had a
Thanks, John.
Zoom meeting with Parks and Recreation, and mostly I just sat there and drank it all in. There's nothing big to report there, other than I was surprised that they have about 216,000 that's basically sitting in savings right now, as far as, you know, and it can be used as projects come up. And I thought that was a large amount, but it's really totally out of context, because I did not ask any questions. And so I don't know what would be normal, and perhaps it's abnormal because of COVID year and everything.
John, can I add something? You got to remember that the voters just passed a new millage that would include the different municipalities getting grants, and that'll be part of that grant money.
Okay.
So that money's there, but it's going to be doled out into grants as they get moving on this new millage, as they will. They will be forming committees, and I don't know if they talked about it in your meeting or not, but they will be doing things that will allow communities such as Elma, Ithaca, St. Louis, Breckenridge to vie for monies for their own parks, and that'll come out of that money.
Okay, so that helps me a lot, because they didn't talk about the committees specifically, but they've created a form by which they're going to sort and categorize in importance, you know, who's got the most important projects. So that now you sort of filled in the hole there as far as.
Sure. I know. I realize you wouldn't know that, but I'm just letting you know that's why a pile of money is still sitting there.
Sure, I appreciate that.
Yeah.
I appreciate that. Other than that, all I had was was on the Zoom meeting for the Alma City Council, and there's not really anything to report there.
All righty, thanks, John. Sorry I overlooked you.
No problem.
All righty, let's move on to our Veteran Services Director up next.
I'll take the lead on that issue. Hang on, let me find you again. There you are. Also, John, take a look at the 5-year plan, because they often have a lineup of projects there, and some of those can gobble up that kind of funding in a hurry. I had agreed or had offered to Sue to kind of take the lead in discussing this issue with you. Sue provided you a very, very thorough memo that was in your packet. I might be able to streamline it for you just a little bit. The bottom line is that the Veterans Commission is asking for position authority to bump the Veteran Services Director position to full time. It currently is in the 28, 29 hour range. Sue will in a minute correct everything I say. To do this, salary savings can cover the difference this year. Now, we don't know if current funding levels, both of general fund and of the grant, will fully fund the full-time status next year, simply because there has to be application for a new grant. Staffing levels overall are a little bit up in the air. And so there are just a number of factors in play. This position became vacant, as you know, last fall, rather suddenly. And although we have posted it everywhere we can think of, we haven't had an applicant that we're prepared to interview. We know that full-time positions tend to attract a larger pool. Even if we were to draw someone for the part-time position, we do run a greater risk that he or she might soon leave us for a full-time position elsewhere. In fact, that's already happened to us within the last couple of years. We had an excellent veteran service officer, came in part-time and now is working full-time in the Lansing area, I believe. And turnover in this department is particularly problematic because there is extensive time and process and effort that's required to do this work. First, to just learn the job, but also various certifications that give one access to the database, that allow one to file electronically and so forth. And that and everything else, if you have questions about that, Susan, far better position to answer those questions. As you know, the Veterans Department is overseen by a Veterans Committee or Commission that's statutory. It is this group that asks that we approach you and ask for full-time authorization. They may or may not do it. They just wanted to get the authorization. I feel pretty darn sure, though, based upon how things are going, that they will opt to go full-time and have this posted at full-time if indeed this board will give position authority. So is there anything you would add to that basic overview?
No, I think that's pretty much wraps it up. I do know that at the time of their meeting, we had just the 2 applicants, and we're up to 4 now.
That we're still not in a position to,
Right.
There are not applicants we're prepared to interview.
And at that time too, we were really worried because VA was saying they were, or the Office of the General Counsel said they were 6 months behind in their VA accreditations, and I had already waited almost 3 months. That is now resolved. So I do have my VA accreditation, but I still have lots of steps forward before I can do all that database accessing that she's referring to. So a few things have changed.
Sue is in the acting director position, but our other part-time veteran services officer is not able to work at this time. So she's really running the whole department and trying to do the work of 2+ full-time positions. So beyond that, we can take your questions.
Tracy, I got a question. When we get this grant, and I remember that we put this gentleman on, the person maybe who's not working now, we put him on, basically we would cover that cost until we got the grant through. We were waiting on this grant, and then I think it was a month or 2 later that Rodolfo come through and said that we had the grant to fund him. So when you look at funds, if Rodolfo wasn't full-time and we have a grant to pay the part-time guy, and we're paying this lady also, where do the funds come from to move somebody up to full-time with benefits?
The position for the remainder of this fiscal year, it's from salary savings. Rodolfo has been off work for a few months. John has been off work for a few months, so it's from salary savings this year.
So what happens next year? I mean, it's
yeah, that's what
do we look at if we hire a full-time person now, do we look at not having it because we're going to count on that grant money to help cover some of this full-time guy or person? Yeah. And so then do we not have enough money to keep that third-time part-time guy on?
Well, as I said, Sam, we cannot make representations to you right now that there will be full funding from the funds at existing levels. If we have the same at existing levels next year, we can't represent to you right now that we would be able to fully fund that. We think we know what the grant amount will be because it's supposed to be statutory, but there's been a little bit of play in that, especially when it first got underway. We also, one of the factors that's up in the air is, candidly, if our current part-time person is going to be able to come back to work, that's an unknown at this point. So there are a number of things that could happen between now and next fiscal year. Neither Sue nor I will sit here and represent to you that there will not be a request for additional general funds. We're just on track right now that we're not going to have anyone in that position, and what is happening currently is not sustainable. I'm not making a threat when I say that the next move would probably be, I'd have to run this through the Veterans Commission, but we'd have to look seriously if we can continue to offer these services to veterans in our community.
Lost you.
We can't hear you.
We lost.
Yeah, he kind of cut out there.
Yeah, I'm sorry about that. I don't know how much you heard, but the current situation is not sustainable, asking Sue to do all of this work. And if we just can't get people in these positions, we'd have to take a serious look at whether we can even continue to offer these services in Gratiot County to our veterans beyond this fiscal year. I assure you that is not a threat or trying to back you into a corner. I just don't play that way. It's just the reality of the funding situation, but more than that, the staffing situation. So that was a lot of rambling to give you all of the factors that go into that issue that lead to the ultimate answer of, I cannot make a representation.
Their year ends different than ours, right? Are they on a calendar year? Are they on a
Fiscal year.
Here, October.
Really, we would be looking at hiring somebody. If we could hire someone tomorrow full time, would this person come with the intention that we don't know what's going to happen come October? I mean, with funding and grants and whether this other person is going to come back, or
If that's what you tell us the terms need to be, then that's what we'll do. That's obviously not desirable.
Matt, I just want to interject one thing. We are in desperate need of leadership at the veterans level. Gratiot County needs veterans participation at the county level. I would suggest that we go with a full-time position that is paid for through this year, but look at our budget and budget level for next year and put it in the budget if that's possible, because I do know, I'm a veteran, and I do know that veterans services are vitally important to people of Gratiot County.
Amen.
Yeah, I agree with you, George.
Do we have an idea of what our customer base is right now? How many veterans are being served?
I did not look it up recently, but I thought we were reaching a little over, not quite half, but a little, at least over a third.
We could ask Sue to come back probably the first meeting in March. The next meeting is going to be quite busy. Rodolfo did give these reports, and Sue, I'm trying to let you off the hook here a little bit.
I know he did, and I don't know where he got all that info, but I know it came to him from someone else once a year.
Yeah, and Rodolfo did provide these reports. We can tell you that when the grant funds came and staffing levels got bumped up, the wait times for veterans to get in for service went from, 6 or 8 weeks down to almost the same week. So these staffing levels made all of the difference for these services. But John, Sue and I will look to figure out where Rodolfo got those numbers and come back to you just as soon as we can and provide that report to you. And Sue, I'll help with this because again, we're trying to, she's handling a lot, but I can help with this.
Well, I dare say there's several thousand veterans in Gratiot County that if they're not using the services now, they will.
Right.
Don't you think there's, I happen to be at one of the schools where there's a couple of service people there that were in the service. I'll talk with them and see if they know of anyone that's looking to help get involved in this veterans, helping the veterans. I'm sure there is. I think it's just a lack of communication, being able to touch.
Well, I think that's a misrepresentation. they've been all over basically the United States, but definitely through all of the veterans associations in Michigan, the American Legion, the VFW, all the veterans associations. They have, and I will say that I know that they have scoured everybody. And so if anybody wants to be one, they know about it already.
Yeah. Thank you for that, George. And Jan, sure, it's always helpful. Who knows who you might reach, but please refer people to the position description on the website, because this isn't just helping veterans. It's not just a coaching and forgive me, I think I was interrupted, but okay.
Okay, any other comments? I think we're looking for a motion here, maybe?
Just one other comment. If, Tracy, if we would go ahead with George's recommendation, can you just give us a thought ballpark what that would be to the budget next year if we didn't get grant money?
I can tell you that the difference between, it depends on where we put them on the salary scale, but the difference between full-time and part-time would be in the ballpark of between $30,000 and $33,000. That is the difference between full-time and part-time. Now, that's the difference in the cost of the two positions. Remember, full-time is more expensive because of benefits. That is not to say, though, John, that we wouldn't write the grant a little bit differently and maybe try to have additional money thrown at salaries versus other things. But I can give you, and I do have these numbers in front of me, about the differences in the costs of those two positions at the one position at part-time versus full-time.
So if I understand you right, if you think it's a worst case scenario, that it would be 30 to 33,000 on our budget next year, I would like to make the motion. I'd like to make the motion that George, it's actually George's motion, but I would so move.
Thank you. I would simply want to clarify that I'm not saying it's worst case scenario. I'm saying that the numbers that we have run show those differences. Somehow framing it in those terms makes me a little bit uncomfortable, but I am representing to you that those are the differences in those full-time versus part-time as we have run them.
I will support Commissioner Limmerman's.
Okay, we have a motion from Commissioner Lemmerman, support by Commissioner Bailey. Any further discussion? Ask the clerk to call the roll.
I'm sorry. Commissioner Bailey,
Yes.
Commissioner Bunting,
Yes.
Commissioner Lumberman,
Yes.
Commissioner Smith,
Yes.
Commissioner Murphy.
Yes. Motion passed. Thank you. Next up, Prosecutor Cushion is up.
I can begin this discussion. Prosecutor finds himself in a similar situation. I've provided you all a memorandum that fully briefs you on this issue. Keith really can't even get anyone to apply for these positions, or if they apply, as you read in the memorandum, they don't come. I've provided you salary information from comparable counties. Those counties were selected because they are comparable. There's a high and a low, of course, but otherwise they are reasonably comparable to our county, and I also, in terms of population, and we also provide the tax value with a picture for each of those counties also. Fact is, Keith just cannot get people to apply for this position, can't get people to come. He's had a position vacant for quite some time now, and he just needs to get this thing filled. On the PAM, Prosecuting Attorneys Association of Michigan, they have a job site there, or a place that jobs can be posted, and they're easily a dozen or more assistant prosecutor positions that are posted there. So there's a lot of competition, and getting people to come to Gratiot County for $44,000 or $45,000 a year it's just not happening. So I provided you all the numbers. I've provided you, you can see that Montcalm County was in a similar situation. They went and just begged their board, as that individual said, we just can't get anyone to apply for the position. So they're in a similar situation and went to their board. With that, I would turn it over to Keith for any additional comments or to answer your questions.
Thank you, Tracy. Can you folks hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
This position, my assistant prosecutor position, has been vacant for about 2.5 months. We initially advertised where all prosecutors advertise, which was with the Prosecuting Attorneys Association, which is where anybody looking for an assistant prosecutor job goes. Typically over the years, you would find perhaps 1 or 2, maybe 3 counties advertising for an assistant prosecutor. Now that's not the case, and we are up against a situation where when we post our job is the way it is now, we're always the lowest. And when I initially posted this job, we had 3 applicants for the job. The one applicant was an excellent applicant, and we offered the job to, and it was accepted with an anticipated start date of January 1. Well, after accepting that job, this individual then went to Clare County for an interview and contacted me and then said she would not be starting here because Clare County's pay was going to start at $50,000 range. And she was, because of the monetary situation, had decided to go with Clare County. The other 2 applicants that I initially had, one was still in law school, hadn't even taken the bar exam yet, so that is of no value to me. And the other applicant I interviewed and was simply not acceptable. I informed Tracy what my problem was, and she put together a plan to do a more reach out to hopefully contact more individuals, put it out there in other manner. And I thank you for that, Tracy, but that has only resulted in 1 applicant. Since this renewed effort, we've only had 1 person apply. That person is scheduled to come in and interview with us tomorrow, but quite frankly, this person has no background in criminal law whatsoever. It's a total, somebody who's totally worked in the civil field, but we're willing to train because it's the only game in town right now. So maybe something will work out there, but I think what we need to do is be competitive with everybody else that's looking for applicants. It's unheard of that you can't get applicants for an assistant prosecutor's job. I've been prosecutor for 24 years. We've never had a problem getting people in, but the salaries in the other places have gone to the point where we're simply not getting anybody that's interested in coming here, and we can't retain. I've had some excellent assistant prosecutors, but they all leave after we get them trained. There's always somebody that's paying more, and I've lost 3 exceptional assistant prosecutors, and then we had to let the last one go because he simply was not acceptable any longer. So that's the situation I'm in. Tracy's done the memo for you and making the suggestion that perhaps we go with the Mecosta County level, which would put us competitive with what Clare is doing. Hopefully get somebody to come in here and maybe get some more resumes in and perhaps be able to retain them without that being an open door, because the learning process takes us quite a while and then they're gone. So that's the situation we're in. Anybody have any questions about that?
So Keith, you feel the 47.6 should be sufficient?
No, it's the 50,200 to 62 $50,700.
Okay, I was just looking at page 15 here. So we're looking at 50 what?
Where you're looking at Clare County and Mecosta counties
Okay,
on the comp table that I've provided on the memo.
50,200?
Yes, up to 62.7.
Yeah, I think that would make us competitive with what's going on.
Okay,
Anything below that, we're not competitive, quite frankly.
I must have been looking in the wrong spot here.
I was looking at the same place you were.
It's
'Cause
at the bottom.
memo,
It's at the bottom of my memo, Assistant Prosecuting Attorney Compensation dated January 27th.
Question.
George, go ahead.
It's probably for Tracy, but I wish Chris was involved in this. I'm not dissing you, Tracy, but it's numbers.
I'm used to it, George.
When we talk about these numbers and we want to plug them into our budget, and I know it's always the taxpayers of Gratiot County that have to pay. But I'm also looking at what part of the budget these funds come from. And is it from the court side of the budget? Is it from the budget?
No, this is a general funded position. If dollars are not found through shifting around there, it would come from the ending fund balance.
All right, very good. Thank you.
Mhm.
Helps.
Any other questions?
So I do have a question. So that's including, I mean, it's 52,000 to 62,000 plus the benefits of, hospital insurance and all that, right? So what does that total up to be altogether?
I don't have that for you. Benefits are generally, 30-35% additional.
Okay.
But you're comparing apples to apples here
Oh, yeah.
because
Let me just interject something else since we're talking dollars and cents. My chief assistant, this does not affect her because she is not on the assistant prosecutor salary range. She has her own salary range, and neither she nor I is asking the board to do anything about that. But my other assistant, who has been with me for 10 years, Colleen Davis, if this was implemented, she is at 10 years, she's at the top of the pay scale. And I would anticipate that if this was adopted and that was the range, that she would go to the top of that scale after 10 years. And that would result in a bump in her salary of about $8,000 from where she's at right now. That's deserved, but I just want to throw that out there. I don't want you to take a look at this and then all of a sudden have me come and say, oh, by the way, Colleen Davis needs to be put on this scale now. So I'm throwing that out for you.
well, let me suggest to you that this is a scale and any assistant prosecuting attorney would be on it. So it would apply to Colleen as well. So again, trying to get salary scales that people are on and can count on the steps.
Yeah,
Well,
I agree with that. That's just the position. And this lady happens to have more experience in that position. She would be up into that scale, because we're going to change the scale for that position that we're hiring. So and I feel your pain, Keith. Hard to get funeral directors too to come to Gratiot County.
Okay, anybody else? I think we're looking for a motion.
I'll make a motion that we allow a prosecuting attorney to put it out for between 52,000 and 62,000 to hire a new,
I think that's 50,200.
50, I'm sorry, 50,200.
I think Keith will be happy to take 52,000, however. Just saying.
I think that range that we were talking about was the start of 50,200 to a top end of 62,700.
That's what I have wrote down.
That's what Claire and Mecosta County are at, and that's what we're requesting, to be able to mirror that.
Okay, we have a motion by Commissioner Bunting. Do we have a second?
I'll second it.
Motion, second by Commissioner Lemmerman. Any further discussion?
Keith, and just to square this up, is that if you get somebody with more experience, that person probably will start a little more than 50.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. I don't want anybody to come back and say, hey, you told us it's going to go at 50.
Are you saying if I get somebody, am I going to come back and say I want more than 50?
No, not more. Not more. You'll have somebody in that range, but you may start somebody out at 55 or 56 or however that works out if they have based on experience what they have.
I would love to find somebody with experience. So
I know.
yeah, that would be great.
Sam, the policy does allow for that. It allows to start at step 2 or 3, evaluating candidates' experience.
That's
We can post the range. That's helpful.
everybody knows that. So
Yeah.
Okay.
Any other questions or discussion? Clerk would call the roll.
Commissioner Bunting,
Yes.
Commissioner Lumberman,
Yes.
Commissioner Smith. Commissioner Smith,
Yes.
Commissioner Bailey,
Yes.
Commissioner Murphy.
Yes. Motion passed. Next on the agenda, information technology, Matt.
There we go. Sorry about that. So tonight I just wanted to give you a brief update on things that my department's been working on. I wanted to first give you kind of an overview of how I run the information technology department, and then talk about some of the projects we've completed since I've been here with Gratiot County, some of the projects we have scheduled for this fiscal year, and then some projects that are kind of farther off in the future. So what my department does is we provide technology strategic vision for other departments. We procure hardware and software. We also plan system configurations, and we make sure that the network's working well and it's very secure and stable. We also respond to troubleshooting calls when things don't work out quite right for our users. And we install software and upgrade software. And we also make sure that we have a IT disaster recovery plan and that we're doing system backups. So we do these things because IT is really critical infrastructure. All of the departments here at Gratiot County use IT to be able to provide services to the county. And they use these systems 24/7, 365 days a year. We also use technology as a tool to help automate workflows and let people be more productive, and also kind of focus on tasks that require critical thinking rather than just doing things that are very simple that computers can kind of take care of for them. Here at Gratiot County, we have a servicing model where I kind of lead the department. I'm the only IT staff that's actually employed by Gratiot County. And then we use other providers to kind of work with some of our various systems. So IT Right is our managed service provider. They execute projects that I lay out for them to work on. They also fulfill the role of our help desk, so they assist users when they have issues. We also have Applied Imaging. They're our managed print service provider, and they support our printers and work on those. They also supply consumables for our printers. And then we work with other vendors to kind of fill other roles. So Wintel is our internet service provider and our desk phone provider. Verizon is our cellular provider, and then we use EPS for our security systems, and then Civic Plus is our website provider. So like I was talking about before, since 2017, we kind of moved to this new method of giving our employees and users IT services, and we use IT Right to provide our general help desk duties, to monitor our system security, and then they also execute IT projects for the county with my supervision. And these are kind of the key staff that I work with on a regular basis. We've got Mark Tiltman and Christina Adams. There are on-site support staff that are here Monday, Wednesdays, and Fridays to help our users. And then Nathan Falposh, he visits us about once a month, but also works on projects, throughout the month. He's our network admin. And then Tom Conway is our account manager. And him and I meet regularly about once a month. This service delivery model, it's worked really well for us the last few years. It really allows us to have about 30 IT professionals at our disposal, and each of them kind of have different knowledge base and expertise. IT is a really complex topic. You really have to know a lot about a lot of different systems and kind of how they all interact with each other. And rather than relying on one person to know everything about everything, it really allows us to have a bunch of people, each with different experience levels, kind of filling in different roles like networking or security or server expert. So it helps us with that. It also allows us to have better continuity of operations. So it allows us to kind of split up the institutional knowledge here at Gratiot County amongst different people in case one key staff person isn't able to work anymore. All of your institutional knowledge isn't really tied to that single person. And having IT fill the role, or having IT right fill the role of the help desk, it really allows myself and our on-site staff to work on long-term projects, work on policies and procedures that benefit the overall county. It allows us to improve the reliability of our IT systems countywide. And then it really allows us to be proactive and plan better rather than just kind of running around reacting to the immediate issue or problem of the hour. And just a quick review of the way that we've set up our help desk. So we ask our users to file a support request ticket with IT Right, and then they assign a remote support technician. 90% of the time, their remote support technician is able to assist them and fix their issue remotely. And then if that issue isn't able to be fixed remotely, like I said before, we have Mark or Christina here Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays to help out with issues on site. And then on Tuesdays and Thursdays, I kind of fill that role for emergencies. About 2 years ago, we migrated our entire printer fleet. We have about 120 printers here at Gratiot County, and we kind of put them all under one single service contract through Applied Imaging. And this company allows us to just have one company managing our entire fleet rather than having each individual department have different service contracts with individual print vendors. And this has worked out really well for us too. It really allows us to control our costs and make sure that we're not incurring any kind of print surprise costs. And it gives us one view of all of the costs associated with printing. Over the last almost 2 years we've been with them, we average about 1 to 2 on-site service requests per week, and that's usually just an older machine needing to be serviced that's kind of repeatedly jamming or that type of thing. And that really frees up a lot of time for IT Right and myself so that we can continue working on our projects and not spend an entire afternoon tearing apart a printer and putting it back together. Our department supports 10 buildings across Gratiot County. We support the courthouse, the North and South Annex buildings, the Sheriff's Department, the Commission on Aging, the Drain Commission, Central Dispatch, Animal Control, the Parks and Rec Office, and then the MSU Extension in Alma. And we have a bunch of different types of computers and equipment that we support. This is just a general slide over them just to kind of show how many different pieces of equipment we have. I kind of totaled it all up briefly before this meeting, and it's like, if you add up everything on this list, it's around 700, 800 devices, and this doesn't necessarily count everything. So there's nearly 1,000 devices out there that could have an issue, and we support and fix those issues as they arise. And I'm going to switch base here a little bit and kind of go into the projects that we work on and how we decide what types of projects we kind of incorporate in throughout the year. most of the projects that we've worked on since I've been around deal with these three kind of overarching principles, I guess you would say. We work on security projects, reliability projects, and then within this last year, we've done a lot of work on projects that enable our users to work remotely. So our security projects are mostly replacing equipment that's no longer considered secure because the manufacturer isn't supporting it anymore typically. We're also adding in additional layers of security to protect our systems and our data. And then we're updating policies here at the county so that our users can complete tasks in a more secure way. Regarding reliability, we've really been working on being more consistent in our approach to IT and work on standardizing around certain equipment and certain vendors so that we're not reinventing the wheel a lot or setting up all of our users in different ways, because it makes it really hard to troubleshoot issues if everybody's not set up in a way that's similar to the other users. We also have been replacing a lot of older equipment that hasn't been working or functioning properly, and getting our computers on a cyclical replacement schedule. I'll talk a little bit about that later on. And then we also really like to think about how to do something well rather than just make something work. So rather than just kind of fix it for a day or fix it for 2 days, we really put a lot of thought into making sure that we come up with a solution that's going to keep it working down the road as well. And this last year with COVID, we've been doing a lot of work to enable our employees to work remotely so that, if they're not able to be here in the building, they can still get work done and we can still provide services to our citizens. So this has helped us throughout the pandemic, but it's also a good idea to have that be able to be done just for continuity of operations sake, in case the building isn't able to be used anymore due to a fire or something like that. We're still able to kind of regroup and pick up the pieces and kind of keep providing services to our citizens. And it also enables us to hire people and kind of keep people around, because people are starting to expect more of a flexible working environment, and it really helps us retain quality talent. So some of the projects we've been working on lately regarding system security, I'm going to go over some of these very briefly and almost be intentionally vague about them, just because I don't want to get into the details of our security too much. But over the last couple of years, we started enforcing very complex password and come up with a solid password policy. It's kind of an industry standard way of doing things. And then through our capital improvement projects, we've replaced our firewall, which is a key piece of equipment that kind of sits between Gratiot County's network and then the public internet. We've implemented two-factor authentication for remote access for our users. So if a user tries to connect into our system, they not only need a username and a password, but they also need a device that spits out a code, just like a lot of banking applications use these days, where they give you a one-use code when you log in. And then we've been doing a lot of work migrating our PC fleet from Windows 7 to Windows 10, because Windows 7 stopped being supported last year. And IT Right also implemented a new endpoint, which is like an individual device on the user threat protection system, so that those devices are protected from cyber attacks. We also have been working on a lot of reliability-based projects. And a lot of these, like I said before, are really focused on standardizing on things and making it so that we have less variety of things to support. So we've been consolidating the types and models of the desktops and laptop PCs that we have here at the county. We've also been consolidating on a brand of networking equipment so that all of our networking equipment works well with each other. And we've been simplifying the way that our network is kind of laid out so that it's much easier to manage and not overly complex. We've also been working on standardizing our usernames and passwords, and we've come up with new onboarding and offboarding procedures so that we have a list of all of the things that somebody needs when they start employment here at the county. Depending on which department you're in, there's a list of, it could be 10 things or 30 things that you may need access to. And we've got lists built out for a lot of our staff now. And then we also have migrated our court video conferencing traffic to a separate network to kind of keep that isolated from our network so that it's more stable and easier to troubleshoot. And we worked with the state of Michigan to migrate our judicial information system off of equipment here at the county and then to the cloud. A lot of counties are kind of going that way just because this AS400 system is kind of legacy technology that not a lot of people have experience working with and can support. So we kind of let the state take care of that now for us because they have experts in that. And because the main reason we have this system is to support the court systems. To go into some of our remote work projects that we've been working on. This last year, especially with COVID, we purchased and rolled out laptops to a lot of our employees. So while they're in the office here, they plug their laptop into a docking station so that they can work with multiple displays and a full-size keyboard and mouse. But when they unplug that laptop and take it home, they're still able to get work done and remotely access those systems with county-owned equipment. We also, like I said before, implemented that new remote network access system with the two-factor authentication. And we also did some work to upgrade the audio and video equipment in the Board of Commissioners rooms so that we can facilitate virtual meetings a lot easier. I've worked with a lot of departments to kind of roll out cellular devices, iPads and cell phones mostly, so that people are better able to work remotely. And then we implemented a new system so that we're more easily able to manage these devices and keep them secure and up to date. And then we also implemented a terminal server, which is a device that we use and allow our users to remotely access our BSNA suite of applications over the internet. And it makes that connection a bit more stable for some of our users that are in more rural areas when they work remotely. We've also worked on a lot of projects that benefit the county overall. So we worked on improving the Wi-Fi system here at the courthouse and some of our auxiliary buildings. And now when I started here, there were only a few places in the building where you could get a strong Wi-Fi signal. Now we've pretty much blanketed this whole building with Wi-Fi. So our employees are able to use Wi-Fi calling throughout the building and able to take a laptop into different meeting spaces and able to still access their county resources. We also completely rebuilt the Gratiot County website. I presented on kind of that a lot to the board and kept you guys apprised of the progress we were making on that. And that's worked out really well for us. It's a lot easier to manage and make updates on and keep up to date. And it's a lot easier for our citizens to use to find information. We also moved to that managed print services model that I talked about earlier. And just recently, we modernized our server infrastructure and migrated a lot of our legacy servers to current versions of Windows Server and took a look at the services that they were running and shut down some stuff we didn't need anymore to kind of simplify things and move to the stuff that we still did need to new systems so that it works a little bit better for everybody. We also, Mark Teltman, our on-site technician, and I, over the weekend, worked on organizing our networking room and improved the cabling situation in there quite a bit so that things are a lot easier to troubleshoot in that area. And we simplified the network a lot so that it's a lot more reliable and easier to troubleshoot and repair when things do go wrong with it. And then we also audited and rebuilt our entire set of network shares so that our departments are able to collaborate on files and documents a lot easier now. And I'm not going to talk about each one of these individually, but I just kind of wanted to make the point here that no matter the department here at Gratiot County, each of them I've worked on individual projects with them. And we've really accomplished a lot over the last few years. I can't think of a department that's really gone untouched as far as something that's really improved the way that they do things at their individual department. A lot of them are, new PC rollouts through that cyclical replacement program that we've been doing with PCs, but some of the projects are pretty substantial and kind of completely change the way that individual departments do things, like the new jail management system at the sheriff's department, or the co-file document management and imaging management system at Register of Deeds. These are completely new systems that have really improved the way that those departments do business. The Commission on Aging and the Friend of the Court, as well as specialty courts, I worked with those departments to really get most of their staff on laptops so that they're able to work remotely a lot easier. And I did that with the Veterans Department as well. We implemented a new Polycom video conferencing system at the Indigent Defense Office so that they're able to work with their clients over at the jail. And there's another component to that over at the jail so that they're able to communicate with inmates over at the jail. And then we've also done a lot of networking improvements with equipment that's located at various departments and various locations. So on the schedule for this fiscal year, we're working on getting the MDC, the mobile digital computers that are in our patrol cars at the Sheriff's Department, replaced. We're also going to be integrating a new web security gateway content filter, which really protects our users from malicious attacks or malicious websites. We're going to improve our offsite backup systems here at the county. And we're going to modernize and simplify some of the networking equipment in some of our secondary locations. And we're going to continue that cyclical PC replacement schedule, which is set at 5 years right now. We may evaluate that in the future once we kind of get to our 5th year of having that in place, just to see how those computers replaced in the first year of this are holding up. But I feel like 5 years is pretty typical in the industry right now for length of time that you can expect a PC to still be able to do a good job of functioning. And then on our on our capital improvement project list, we also have some upgraded audio and video equipment that we want to get installed in our training room meeting space here, so that we have one more meeting space here at the county that can host virtual meetings. And then we want to continue working on migrating some of that legacy data that's on our AS400 system off of that system, so that we're able to kind of shut that system down. And all of the projects that are listed on this slide here, these are all things that we built into the budget this year under our capital improvement projects. And then kind of just this or next fiscal year and beyond, these are some of the things we kind of are starting to plan for. A panic button system migration, replacing our video servers that host all of the security camera footage and dash cam and camera footage for our Sheriff's Department. We're looking at eventually taking a look and evaluating our phone system, and then continuing to really work on our network to make sure that it's stable and working well for our users. We're going to continue our cyclical PC replacements, and then evaluate our email and collaboration system as well. And sorry, that was kind of a lot of information to throw at you, kind of rapid fire, but I wanted to make sure to get through it so that I could allow everyone there to ask questions. So I'll take questions if anybody has any.
Well, Matt, I recall when we put these folks on, the biggest thing was if our system went down, they could get us up and running in like 45 minutes to an hour. They have a backup system that logs in or something. Keep the courthouse running.
Are you talking about IT, right?
Yes.
Yes, they've been, when we have had full system outages, they've been instrumental and key in getting us back up and running. And those, I will say, since I started, those full system outages are way less frequent than what they were prior to not just me being around, but IT being around as well.
I know, and we had them before you come and before they come, and I just I remember seeing that room with just a bunch of wires, and now it's clean, and yeah, it's going well, I think.
Yeah, I can actually see the equipment behind the wires now, so it's a pretty good improvement.
Yeah. Kudos to you and your team.
Thanks. I really appreciate it. And I appreciate the board, you know, working with me to get funding for me when I've asked for things. We don't really put things in our budget that are considered toys, or that would be nice just to have because it does something, you know, fun just for technology's sake. We really try to be thoughtful in the things that we ask for and make sure that they're really improving security or reliability. Those are two things that I find are very important.
Matt, it's George.
Hey.
I just want to say you have brought Gratiot County from the 19th century to the 21st century, and I kudos to you because you've done a great job, young man. You
Thanks.
really.
I really appreciate it, and that really key to that is the service model of having IT right around to work on those help desk tickets, because you get a few of those help desk tickets and they really have the potential to tie up your day. So when they're able to do those password resets and those, you know, fix those little issues that can kind of pile up on a person,
Yeah,
it really frees up my time to work on those projects and kind of.
I know it took a while to get going, but you were very persistent, and by golly, you've done it. And I just appreciate you. I really think that you're one of Gratiot County's real good finds.
Matt, I asked you this last week when I was going through that orientation.
Mhm.
Can you come in the morning and can you see that there have been one or two unauthorized entries into our system? You know, somebody trying to hack in, anything like that? Is that a large volume thing? Is it a small thing? How would you rate that?
Yeah, that's something that we are able to look at. IT Right does a lot of looking at that type of information. I also review that as well. I don't know if I would necessarily want to get into it in too much detail in a public meeting, but we're on top of those types of issues and we are monitoring that type of stuff.
All righty, any other questions for Matt? Okay, thank you, Matt.
Thanks.
And Sheriff Morse, looks like you're up.
Thank you, appreciate it. Come to you tonight with looking to add another road position, and here's why. Back in 2013, when we took over the city, Lieutenant McCollum was promoted to lieutenant and seen over the city. That took a road position away from us. Eventually that was filled back in. However, with the state of Gratiot County right now and I'm going to say 0% Michigan State Police coverage in Gratiot County, I had to, after I took over as sheriff, make a full-time second detective, just out of necessity for the workload that we're doing here in Gratiot County. So that took away from one of my road spots. So what I have on the road right now is I have 2 4-man teams on nights, 1 4-man team on days, and 1 3-man team on days, plus a city car 24/7. By having that 1 3-man team, that causes some problems on certain days, especially if I have somebody that's out sick or with COVID or on vacation or whatnot. It takes me down to 2. So ideally, it's best to have 3 minimum staffing in the county. I do have this money in my budget to do this. I went over this with Chris to make sure I did, and I do. And I'd like to ask the board's approval to create 1 more full-time deputy position. Now, I'm in kind of the same boat Mr. Cushion is, because trying to find people to fill those spots is very, very tough to do right now. But over the past few years, the board has made that a more appealing position here in Gratiot County through compensation. So I'm hoping that I don't have nearly the problems that we used to have attracting applicants. Actually, we've done 3 interviews in the last couple of days for positions, not necessarily for this, but to start maybe over in the courthouse here to get their feet wet. And then if we have a good candidate, then we can move them over to the full-time side. So just looking for approval to create that position. Like I said, I do have it in my budget to do that. And I take any questions anybody has on that.
Okay, you said that the person that is from over, I wasn't paying attention maybe as much as I should have. One of the guys that are over here that do the, coming and going people.
Yep.
Security, they would be the one that would go over to your.
No. I would look to hire a new person. Everybody that I have over at the courthouse wants to stay at the courthouse. So, but I could hire a new person to start over here to kind of get their feet wet, get their certification active. And if we feel they're good enough to be put on the road for us or show that they have interest in the road full-time position, then we could do that once it's approved.
Okay, so what if you do hire somebody and they're not good, going to work out from over here?
Then they can either stay at the courthouse or they, may find employment somewhere else too.
Okay, well, you've got the money, so I'll make a motion that we allow you to hire another person.
Okay, motion by Commissioner Bunting. Do we have a second?
I second it.
Second by Commissioner Lemmerman. Any discussion on this or any questions of the sheriff? All right, if we can have a clerk call the roll.
Commissioner Lumberman,
Yes.
Commissioner Smith,
Yes.
Commissioner Bailey,
Yes.
Commissioner Bunting,
Yes.
Commissioner Murphy.
Yes.
Thank you very much.
Motion passed, and you still have the floor?
Second one is I sent you guys some stuff in your packet on current salary of the sheriff. And I kind of come here looking for you to maybe look at the interim review for compensation for elected officials tonight and also the workshop group. I've done a lot of research over this in the last month or so. And what I have found in other counties is that, especially surrounding counties, is that Gratiot is quite a bit lower than surrounding counties. And let me give you a little, for instance, is what we got going on here. We have 3 major roads that go through Gratiot County, 46, 57, and 127. With the surrounding counties around us, we get a lot of traffic from Mount Pleasant to Lansing, Lansing back to Mount Pleasant, from the west side of the state, Muskegon, Grand Rapids, over to Saginaw, down the 57 corridor to Flint potentially. So we are protecting the Gratiot County residents, but we also have to deal with things that come through our county. And so that's why I threw out the comparisons for the surrounding counties, because we get a lot of spillover from Saginaw, Midland, Ionia, Montcalm counties. So that's why I threw that out there, the surrounding ones. And then I threw some of the county uses as comparables. As you can see, those were all over the board. Some of them are quite a bit lower, some of them are quite a bit higher. I really don't know how they compute those. Looking at the salary structure that I get from MSA. So in short, this is the first time it looks that we've asked the commissioners to review the sheriff and some other salaries in the county in the last 4 years. There's a lot of factors that go into that. And I think the need for a workshop and there to analyze and study these issues. I think it would be very helpful in the summer to sit down and just discuss, how do you proceed to give the raises to elected officials. As the sheriff of Gratiot County, it's not just an 8 to 5 job, it's a 24/7 job. Crime knows no boundaries, and no times. As Commissioner Lemmerman would know, last week when we were having our orientation meeting with him, I started at 4 o'clock. I had the lieutenant come in and tell me we had a homicide at 4:25. We had to speed that up. I started work that day at 6:30 a.m. and I got home about 11 o'clock at night. So, you know, it's just one of them things. It comes with the job, but that's something that should be looked at. Also, I'm speaking for a lot of elected officials here, that they should not be looked at the same for compensation. And what I mean by that is you can't just rubber stamp and go this, and this. It depends on employees, workload, what they do. For instance, Angie Thompson is here late tonight. She is here late every commissioner meeting. She has her election stuff that she works hours and hours and hours on. So, you know, maybe you should look at that compensation for her also. And then you have the treasurer, and they have a responsibility of handling a lot of money for the county. Register of Deeds, I don't have a lot of interaction for the Register of Deeds. I don't really know what their job entails. You have the Drain Commissioner, and of course you have the prosecuting attorney, you know, elected officials. But if you do decide on an interim, some type of raise tonight, I still think you should look at the compensation board for, you know, a yearly review of this and go from there. If you have any questions about salary figures I've given you, I actually have everything from MSA of every salary for every sheriff in the state of Michigan. So most of these salaries that I've looked at are anywhere, it's weird. Let me back up. There's 2 under sheriffs that actually make more money than the sheriff in the state of Michigan. I don't know how that is, but it's unbelievable. But most counties, the sheriff is paid approximately 15% over the final compensation of the undersheriff. And a lot of them are up in the 18 to 22% range over what the undersheriff makes. So I'd be more than happy to answer any questions.
Okay, I have some questions.
Sure, go right ahead, Jan.
Statement I'd like to make. Can everybody hear me? Okay. It's hard to talk with the sun. One of the things I want to point out to you, you know, that we did take a vote at the last meeting to go ahead and to have a group get together and look into this. And one of the things that I did not bring up at the time was that just 5 months ago, we had an election. And in that election, you ran for X amount of dollars. Everybody did. Anybody that was elected official ran for X amount of dollars, knowing that's what you were going to get. And you also knew the job that you were coming into.
Correct.
Now, in 7 months, we will be finalizing another budget. And it was my understanding that you want to get, or you want to have more money at this time. Was that that is to go back as far as November and bring it forward to the end of this year?
I would leave that up to you. I'm not asking for any retro pay back to November, but I would leave that up to you. Let me make one point. In the last 4 years, through our union contracts, my road deputies and corrections have received anywhere from 10 to 12% raises, while the sheriff's spot, previously held by Sheriff Wright and now myself, received 0. So in essence, they've all creeped up on me, and hence what I give you in the packet, that the undersheriff now is basically about $600 behind what the sheriff makes.
Yeah. And one of the things I want to bring up also is, at one time, the county commissioners were the ones who put the budget together. We were the ones who had people come in, the different departments, talk to them. We were the ones that did that budget. So this would never happen to where all of a sudden, you know, none of these figures are balancing out. And I agree with you. It was brought to my attention several months ago that the undersheriff makes just a little less than you do, and he hasn't been here very long. But again, the county commissioners have so little to do with the budget, except for they get it a week before it's due, and we get different things that are going on. But unless we are hands-on working on a budget, it's very hard to keep, well, we all have other jobs.
Jan, that's not right, Jan. You had all the opportunity in the world to be part of this budget. You were told many times. I do not agree with what you just said.
So why the other part of it is, then why didn't we know about this back in September or last August or July or June? Why wasn't this brought up at that time where we would be going, because we did have the union negotiations and they were all getting union raises. And at that time, it should have been gone down through there to see where the elected officials stood. But it wasn't, obviously, because here we are.
Well, I did not bring it to anybody's attention, Jan, and
I know you did.
here's a couple reasons why, or
No, I-
the main reason why. Had I lost the election, I wasn't going to bargain for somebody else's pay. You know what I mean? And that's why I didn't come here January or November 4th, the day after the election. I thought we'll get past the first of the year when my new term took, and then, but then you have new people, or myself and Terry essentially are the new people in the elected spots. But you know, now is the time where you definitely got to have the compensation committee.
Yeah, oh, I agree. I agree that, that everybody, especially the elected officials, it should be looked at. And it should have been looked at every single year, not several years later.
Yeah.
It's just how we go about it. And you know yourself, this will be put into the paper, and
Sure.
it should not be elected officials making or deciding what another elected official should get. It should be outside people. And I brought that up at the last meeting. And I am 100% for giving the elected officials. I mean, I know personally the work that Angie Thompson from the clerk's office was doing, because of the fact that we used to get together for lunch, and we no longer did that during the election because she was doing, well, she was working till 9, 10 o'clock at night, weekends, Sundays, and working. She worked all the way through almost a whole year
Absolutely.
in this, and she still is.
Yes.
She is still now going out and doing more things that have to do with the election. Again, she should have more money also.
Mhm.
I'm trying to make it fair with everybody, including people, well, the employees of the county also. And
Yeah.
so let me ask,
Go ahead. Go ahead.
let me ask you, what would you like to see done? What would,
Well, I think
what do you
that-
think would be fair to do it?
I think what would be fair is some type of interim compensation now, and then this summer, look at with a group to study this. And I have my own thought, because my thought would be that, you know, with my compensation, maybe you got to look at what the union gets and then follow along with that. That could be different for the prosecutor, that could be different for the road commission, that could be different for the clerk.
Uh-huh.
But I think that you got to have this committee to look at all the variables.
I agree with that. Yeah. And I do agree that, I mean, I'd like to see us come to some kind of agreement this evening to give something to not only you, to maybe, even if it's 3 or 4% to all the elected officials, except for the county commissioners, because I think that is going way down the wrong road. But maybe this next election, this next budget, then if put the county commissioners in there, somebody might say, you know, we don't work enough, or we don't work hard enough, or, you know, whatever. We don't deserve one or shouldn't have one. And that's fine with me. I don't do it for the money. I do it because I'm interested in the politics of it. But I would like to see, especially the sheriff, get something starting this point on. And then this summer, when the new budget comes, have something already being put into place that we can see more of the numbers. And I know, like I said, I know you guys work hard. I mean, I'm very, the police and force, or the police, state police, city police, and county police, and anybody, the ambulance, the fire department, are at the top of my list of supporting. And I do give money to all of those, you know, send in money for special things that they have going. And so I'm 100% supportive of you. I want to do it right, because I answer to my citizens out there, the people that vote me in. There's a reason I'm still on the board after 20 years, still getting elected in here. And I do go to the meetings, and they do ask me questions, and I do want to be fair with them and just be fair with everybody. So that's where I'm at coming on this.
I would agree that the commission should be able to bring us this annually and should solve that. But I also think the elected officials do deserve an interim raise, because they haven't had any for 3 or 4 years.
Yeah.
That's the position.
Yeah, I mean, if you really looked at it, I mean, I'm 12% behind what my road patrol people make right now from 4 years ago. And I say me, it's the position that you need to look at, whether it's me or the next guy or whatever. Same thing for Angie and Terry and Mary and Bernie. It's the position, not years of longevity.
Yes.
Here's how I see this. I don't see this as Mike Morris, Angie Thompson. I don't see it as the clerk or the treasurer or the register of deeds, whoever they are, or the commissioners. I look at these positions. And I think we did a raise maybe 2-3 years ago for us when we took out meeting times or something like that. And I think the clerk position was raised a few years back. I think we missed the sheriff the last 3 or 4 years. The sheriff position, not Mike Morris, the sheriff position. And when you look at it around to where our communities are, I looked at a couple counties that Mike didn't have. And I look at like Mecosta County. The guy makes $80,000. You got 43,000 people in population. We're at about 40. I look at Iosco County. Now there's a guy that's got $57,000, and he's only got 25 people, or 25,000 people in his county. But when you look at like Montcalm, the population is about 63,000. They make 78. Here's what I'm thinking we ought to do is I'm thinking we ought to just take care of the sheriff position this evening. And I given this some thought. There's 150 hours of compensation that the policemen and stuff get in there now. And you know something? I probably wouldn't be the sheriff for this county for $35 an hour. And I believe that we ought to probably pay the sheriff position. If you take that 150 hours that he doesn't get, I think we should pay him the $35,000 this position, the $35 an hour for that, which I figure $52.50 from here on out. And then I think what we need to do is put this committee together and then talk about other positions next, so we can have something in our budget for next year. But I'd be in favor. I'd make a motion to pay the $150 hours of compensation at $35 an hour to this position. And that would be $52.50 from here on out the end of the year. And that would put him, well, he'd be about 78 too.
Sorry, what was that, Sam?
There's 150 hours of compensation in there for the deputies and stuff and everybody, he doesn't get paid for that. And so, and I'm not even I'm looking at position doesn't pay that. His position is really 40 hours. And you know something? We're fortunate to have a good sheriff, and we're fortunate to have a good clerk and all of our elected officials. But we might not get a good sheriff next time. Doug Wright didn't get a raise. I mean, when he was here, maybe one, and he was a good sheriff. So I just look at this as a position, and we need to make sure we take care of that position from here on out. But I think right now we're so far behind in this. I think at $35 an hour, which would figure the hourly wage of what our sheriff position pays, give them the 150 hours of compensation time, which would be $52.50, $5,250. Add that to his paycheck from whenever they get paid again, here on out to the end of the year, and then sit down as a committee and then figure this out for everybody. Every position, not every person, every position.
So
Like I said, you're not get a good
I don't
sheriff.
know how much that is though.
It's $5,250.
which would bring the total salary to a little over 78,000 by my figures.
21, yeah, and some change, yep.
Yeah.
I second.
Okay, we have a motion by Commissioner Smith, a second by Commissioner Lemmerman to increase the salary by $52.50 to a little over 78,000.
Okay, I still have
Any questions?
I have questions. Does the, you said that you get $150. Is that everybody in the court?
150 hours. That is negotiated into the police officer's contract, because when they work holidays, they do not get paid overtime. So the commissioners bargained into that a few years back to make it 150 hours and straight time when they work a holiday rather than time and a half. And I think they've computed out that, because they were originally getting, I think, 110-hour bonus check. Now it's 150 and they don't get overtime on holidays, and they actually save the county money.
Okay. Now,
And then also everybody else also works 84-hour pay weeks, which is another 104 hours a year. So.
okay, I want to do one thing
Real
here.
clear on this also, that I don't want this Mike Morris is getting this raise. I want this is that this position is going to pay that.
For the sheriff. That's the way I took it.
Okay, I just want to make sure it's not Mike Morris is getting a raise. It's that position's going to get a raise. If Mike quits tomorrow and we hire another one the next day, he gets that money too, or she does. Don't quit tomorrow, Mike, but.
Thanks.
Okay, so I'm just asking this, we're doing this for you. Is there a possibility of doing something for the other elected officials, like a 2% until the end of the year? Or the end of the,
Those positions were raised back when we got raises. I think they're right around the 60,000 mark. I think some of them are.
57,000. They were 2019 is when they were given.
So that's,
I object. I think we have a commission that we're going to talk about here down a little bit that is going to allow us to review all those wages. And I think that's the time to do it.
I'm just going to say too, I try to look for patterns, and it's disturbing to see the assistant prosecuting attorney position and now the sheriff position that Gratiot County is way under the surrounding counties. And so it would be interesting to see a like comparison for the other county positions as well.
Yeah. And I think that's something this committee ought to do. Yeah, and I think there was raises back in 19 for those positions. And we just missed the sheriff. We just missed him. Doug was a state trooper, and we just missed the sheriff.
Yeah, and if I could say, this is Mike Morris speaking now, this is sheriff, but this is my job. This was not my retirement job. This is my job. Not bashing Doug or Barcy, but they both had retired from other jobs, but this is my job.
Well, may I say one thing? We are playing catch up. We are one of the few counties, and you can look it up, in the state of Michigan that have been fortunate enough to come out of the recession of 2008 through the 2014 period with being able to make these decisions. And we have to go forward. And I would ask that we all calm down. We look at the situation, and we deal with the sheriff as a one-time off, if you will, but go on with what was recommended as having a committee going forward that we review these cases ongoing, and that will help us get back to what where the levels that we need to be. Thank you.
okay, any further discussion? We have a motion on the floor. Clerk will call the roll. And the number I come up with, an increase of $52.50 for a new total of $78,042 is what I did the math on.
Okay. Plus 150.
No, that's 150 hours. That's the
52.50
the hourly wage.
Computed up from the 150
Okay,
hours.
78,142.
Zero.
So can I read the motion I have on?
Yes, thank you, Angie.
Okay, so I have to increase this sheriff wages, $5,250, which is 150 hours of compensation at $35 for the rest of the year.
Is that through the rest of the fiscal year, Sam? It's through September 30th?
We'll redo this again in October, Mike, and we'll
Okay, yeah,
have.
perfect. Yep, thank you.
We'll have this committee meeting, and we'll redo this, look at this, everything by October, all the elected positions.
Yeah, because Angie said through the end of the year, so I wanted to clear that and make that clear.
For a year to what, September 30 or whatever that is.
Yep.
We need the figure, please, in the minutes of what then the annual salary is for the sheriff. You're discussing the piece from here to the end of the fiscal year, and I can appreciate that. What then does that make the rate of compensation for the sheriff? Mike, do you have that so we can get it in the minutes?
By my figures, it would be $78,042.
So let me just get my calculator pulled up here. So
We're looking at the current 72 $792. Is that accurate?
$78,050 is what I come up with. $78,050. That's
Thank you.
35 times 2230.
Mike, what do you make a year again? What's that position pay?
72.
$792.
That's what I'm showing on this sheet.
72.7.
92.
Yep.
So if we're adding 5250, that's $78,042.
If you do it the round figure, which is $35, it comes out to 78,050. It's $8 difference. Because it actually, when it computed out, is 34.9999999.
Yeah. Then
Okay, are we ready to go forward with the vote?
So I've got $78,050. Okay. Roll call. Smith,
Yes.
Bailey,
Yes,
Commissioner Bunting,
yes.
Commissioner Lumberman,
Yes.
Commissioner Murphy.
Yes.
Thank you.
Motion passed.
Thanks for taking the time and coming in and talking with us.
All right, then, moving on to unfinished business. We have the compensation elected officials and the compensation work group. Who's handling that? Are you, Tracy? We can't hear you.
Thank you. I think that you've taken care of the interim review of compensation for elected officials. However, I have nothing to add to the memo that I sent you. I know you've read it. I believe I heard a suggestion that the other elected officials go through the work group process. But the memo is there. I really have nothing to add. I did do this though, because at the last meeting, I believe it was you, Chuck, that said maybe we should take a look at the other elected officials. That's why this is here. It's a follow-up to your comment.
So do we have anything further on that matter? All right, let's move on to the elected officials compensation work group.
I'm handling that one also. See my name as Sheila's on the memo. Again, the memo outlines the issue for you, so no real surprises. I'm pleased to hear the comments of support for this concept of a work group. Clearly, we need to have this structured review process. And by the way, the reason that other elected officials got the increase in 2019 is that they came to a board meeting and gave you very mean stares because there was not another process in place. So there really nothing new or surprising here. These are my recommendations for the work group. And again, making it clear, if it apparently was not, that the work group offers recommendations to the board, and the board makes final decisions about the compensation for elected officials, as you just did with the sheriff. I've talked about the regular meeting time, and that the decisions would for increases would take effect at the beginning of the new fiscal year, October 1. Now the work group membership, I would like to see a couple of department heads, 2 union member representatives, 2 non-union employees, and 2 elected officials. As I indicated in my memo, because these are just recommendations to the board, there's really not a need to have an odd number of members. If you want to do that, that's fine. But there's really no need, given that these come to you as recommendations.
Are the elected officials, you guys aren't union, are you?
No, not union, but I think what Tracy has laid out is a good plan, because then you've got a realm of people to sit down and talk about this, and I can give a department head / elected official view and how my contracts work, and other people can give views of how theirs work.
Mhm.
Was the question if elected officials are union members? Is that the
Well, I don't
question?
think that, yeah, well, when you said that you had elected official or union, you were picking two union people. I wondered why the elected officials would have a union person to negotiate their raises.
No, that's not the point, Jan.
What she's saying to form the board here on this bill.
Yeah, I read that.
The recommendations to you. So 8 people would sit down and go, okay, what should we do about the clerk? What should we do about the treasurer? What should we do about the register of deeds? What should we do about the sheriff, the prosecutor, the road commission, or not road commission, drain commission, all those. So it's going to be a group that's going to sit down and work and try to hash out what percentages each department should get.
And of course, they have to bring it to us for final decision.
I apologize that my memo was apparently unclear.
Tracy, I like the thought of this because 6 of these folks will be people that'll be working there during the day. We can meet during the day. I would like to serve on that committee.
Thank you, Sam.
We got to get 2 people from the outside, would be myself or somebody else. You know, I just think we had 2 commissioners there. That would be great. And so we only have 2 outside people who come. We can meet almost any time that was good for the 2 people, 2 commissioners.
I don't know that it was necessarily recommending 2 commissioners. I thought
I see. Okay.
one commissioner and another elected official. And then at this point, I'm really not recommending outside people. I mean, we can add that, but you know, the learning curve would be pretty steep, and we have quite a broad base of internal folks with the suggested positions in my 2-page memorandum.
I guess I move we adopt this. We have Tracy make the appointments to do this.
I second it.
So that's a motion by Commissioner Smith to do this format, and a second by Commissioner Lemmerman. Any questions?
Yeah, I have, well, I don't agree with this because of the fact that I think that there's lots of people outside of the county that could do this. Greater Gratiot, MSU over in Elma, there's, well, each of us should pick somebody from our district that would sit on this board. That's how it's always been done before. But that's just me, you know, you guys, it's a vote. And
I wasn't aware that there's been an elected officials compensation commission that has had that design. I'd be happy to look at any documentation of that, but I was not aware of such a thing.
well, my history of 20 years kind of tells you, you know, I've been here long enough to know how they used to do it. And I would think you do too, Sheriff.
Well, I can tell you one thing from my point of view. I'm only aware of one raise Rick Barris ever took, one Doug ever took in the last 20 years. That's
Yeah, and the
last 20 years. So I don't think there's ever been a commission, truthfully, to look at wages of elected officials.
No.
Yeah, well, I tell you, when I first came on, there was no raises. In fact, we let a lot of people go because of lack of money. And it wasn't until the wind turbines came in that we even had money. We took bonds out to pay the bills of the county. And then because of the way the taxes were coming in. So we would take a bond out for about 3 million. And then when the taxes came in, we were able to pay that bond off. And we just didn't give raises for a long time.
Well, in this committee may suggest no raises this summer. It's possible.
Yeah.
At least you have this committee that has put their minds together to do this.
Yeah, I would just like to see people outside the county to be working on this. I think
Like Tracy said, I think that would be a monumental task for them to digest everything that goes on in county government as far as pay.
Oh, I think there's a lot of smart people out there. You'd be surprised how many people out there a lot of people that run well. Kurt Giles from St. Louis, city manager, I'm sure he knows how to do budgets. And Jeff Ostrander from Breckenridge in my district would know how. Kevin Beeson from your area, I mean, these are people that deal with wages and stuff and would, put a lot into this and have a lot to bring to the table. I think it saves a lot of conflict of interest, bringing outside people in it. I'll tell you what, some of the people that were on this board at one time, I mean, Richard Gay was one of them. He was an attorney. You got Roger Cook, who was the one who set all this up to begin with, to have an administrator and to change things in the county, to have a check and balance. Some of the other people that are still in this community is, I'm trying to think of some of the ones that were on the board when I was here first. But I mean, when we first started out, there were 7 commissioners, and I got to tell you, it was pretty tight going for a long time, just being able to pay the bills.
I heard reference to conflict of interest. Is there still some uncertainty on that concept?
I just think that at one time there was a group of people outside the county that sat on a board, and they made the decision of raises for any elected official.
I understand. And again, I'd love to look at that concept. So if you can get me a time frame, that would be great, so that I can be aware of that. But also, Commissioner, I thought I heard you refer to conflict of interest. And so if there's any ongoing question about that issue or confusion about it, I certainly want to be helpful.
Okay, I'll tell you what, I will get a hold of Richard Gay, who he's an attorney in Alma, and he was on the board at the time. Also, he also took a test for the Roberts Rules of Order. And so I will talk with him. I'll give him a call this week and have it ready for our next meeting. In fact, maybe he would come to a meeting.
May I say something?
Yeah.
Go ahead, George.
This commission or committee or whatever that Tracy is trying to set up is, to me, the 21st century committee. You are talking about things that happened in the past several years ago. We have dug out of that hole. It's time to move forward. We have to look at forward thinking. I think that you have to trust your county administrator to do what is proper in this matter. And that's all I've got to say about that.
You're entitled to your opinion, and I'm entitled to my opinion. But I will get a hold of Richard Gay and have him either Zoom in or give us a printout or something of how it used to be.
I would just say that I basically agree with George, and I seconded the motion. As far as all this committee is going to do is offer recommendations. The board is still in control of what
You're exactly right.
That's my understanding. The sense it comes back to the board, we are allowed to do this. That's my understanding.
Exactly.
You're right, Chuck.
I thought that our departments were so busy, and so you're now taking them out of during the day. Are they doing this after their jobs or during the time that they're at work?
Yes, you can. That remains to be seen. I would be willing to come in on an evening if that's what it took, if I was appointed to that position. I have no problem with that.
Gee,
We have a motion and a second on the floor.
Yeah, we have a motion on the floor then. Any further discussion?
Oh, I'm going on.
Okay, Angie, can you call the roll?
Commissioner Bailey,
Yeah.
Commissioner Bunting,
No.
Commissioner Lumberman,
yes.
Commissioner Smith,
Yes.
Commissioner Murphy.
Yes.
I'll of course provide you regular updates on this issue.
I will still I will get a hold of Mr. Gay and talk with him and have him give his opinion too.
All righty. Thank you, Jan.
Okay.
Matt, do we have anybody on the line that wants to make additional comment?
I do not see anybody on.
All right, I see one more thing in the packet. Is this just informational from the Drainage Board?
That was communications.
No, it's at the end of the packet. It says notice of draining board meeting, so I guess this is.
Oh,
just
yeah,
information.
that came in late. I'm sorry. So I have that on extra.
Okay, is there any action we need, or is that just
No,
information?
it's just communication.
Okay, very good.
And there was also one more thing too, from the clerk's office, that we're gonna have an election in May. Is that true?
Yes, countywide election in May. Yay.
And that will be on,
So Mid-Michigan College is going to try to do their annexation and millage request again, but they're not going to do it in the RESD region. They have decided to break it out per school district. So if the voters in Ithaca School pass it, they will be annexed into Mid-Michigan Community College. If Alma passes it, they will be and so it's going to actually be by school district, which is probably a better choice for them to go. Because as you can imagine, Fulton and Ashley are on the south side of the county. And so a lot of them go to Lansing Community College or even over to Baker College in Owasso. And so then also the Ithaca School District is putting on their bond in order for a new elementary.
So that would be the same two-step process. The district would have to approve a
Pass
millage
both.
also. Yeah.
They would have to pass both of the.
Okay. Anybody have anything further? We can entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Without objection, we're adjourned.